not a Negro, black, colored, African American. I'm a Moorish American. Peace.
Yeah. Hey, 5 on the right, 2 on the left, man. You know what time it is. Yo. We just Moors in America, soared through the shores and endured criminal acts of war on our character. 7 years after the 4th score, no reward. Shout out to the most courageous, they was jumping over barriers. Where does that compare to you? We come from a place where you scared to visit our area. We come from a place where it's scary for good Samaritans. Heavy luggage we carrying, babies having babies. It's crazy being American. Praise the one and only Allah, there's no comparison. La ilaha illa Allah, body and buried gin. Laughing at you clowns like ha-ha, dodging the Nephilim. Conquer lower self with the high, follow your regimen. Way before they came we were gods and now we specimen. Tried to take the light from our eyes, thank God for Edison. Then they put the wool on our eyes, it's so embarrassing. Now we travel frequently, we should invest in Sheraton. All of us got gold on our bodies whenever we stepping in. Screaming Ramadan Mubarak, training the flesh again. Wishing we could move as a unit just like the Mexicans. Dodging all the foods with estrogen, synthetic medicines. All sin isn't devilish. Sometimes the decisions that you make come for a better gift. Sometimes when you sin is to relate to all your brethren. Heavenly gates all in our face, we the champions. We live in the sky, we see the angels on the chariots. Waiting on the $20 bill, facing Harriet. I bet you I'ma carry it. I'm in love with music to the point I wanna marry it. But my love for people is greater, so I write messages. Largest spending power, but we still sit at a deficit. Living amongst prejudice, even at our residence. Moors in America, flourishing, excellent. Let's buy up some neighborhoods and groom our own president. Yeah. And I come to you today with all intentions of spreading love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
All right, peace, everybody. Hopefully, everybody can hear. About to bring my guests on. I see brother Green Bay said in the chat, Islam Moors, what's the song? That song is Moors in America by the brother Sean Bay out of Columbus, Ohio, out the 614. Make sure you go and check out the brother Sean Bay. I have his links in the description. Check out his platform. That brother's talented, supremely talented. And he makes beats too. All right. So we're going to be talking to Temple Head out of St. Louis, Missouri, brother Nizza PL. This brother has a lot of information for us. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on and not take up any more time. I would like to go ahead and introduce the brother now. We have the brother Nizza Peacemaker L in here right now. Islam, brother, how you doing?
All is well, my brother. How you be?
All is well, brother. All is well, man. It's a pleasure to have you on here. Just from the first moment I spoke to you, or first time I spoke to you, right? Last year sometime, man. Just speaking to you over the phone was powerful because like you came out the gate with fire. You know what I'm saying? And I felt the sincerity and where you were coming from. And hopefully you feel the same from me. And I'd love to just to ask you just to let the Moors know a little bit about yourself, brother. And I yield the floor
Islam.
to Islam.
All is well. Praises to Allah, honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Extend a hail and high honors to the Marcus Mosai Garvey, demonstrate the forerunner of the prophet. I give honors to everything Moorish and give honors to you, brothers and sisters, for doing your part in uplifting fallen humanity. Islam.
Islam. All
Well,
right.
myself, I've been in the temple for quite some years. My age is 48. A lot of brothers and sisters that I've come around through my travels, some in the Dismal Crips and some throughout these United States, it's always came to a conclusion that these brothers and sisters love the prophet. And throughout the midst of meeting brothers and sisters throughout my travels, I began to realize that the prophet's message is threefold, but it only can be done and demonstrated by those who truly understand the work that needs to be done. And so reaching out to a lot of elders, meeting with them, speaking with them, sitting down, rotating the disc, building, I came to a sense of urgency about 12 years ago that the destiny of the Moors cannot be told by those who are not Moorish. And so with that understanding, I took it upon myself and made a point to review all information as much as I can by way of Mecca, by way of Library of Congress, by way of the Moorish Bonner Springs, Kansas compound, and by way of a lot of brothers and sisters sending me materials and giving me materials that's been doomed to be authenticated. And of these travels, I came in contact with D. Bailey Yield before his passing. And in doing so, we had met on the soul plane about the security and the order of the movement. So as we went up in the apparatus, we both understood that the movement cannot be told or televised or sold. It is a destiny for those who believe truly in their hearts, minds, body and soul and spirit that Noble Drew Ali came to do exactly what he said he came to do, redeem the people and set us on a solid rock of foundation. And so with that understanding and overview, we started to study legal statutes, legal cases throughout the Supreme Court. Went and started studying a few cases that were brought to United Nations. Went and seen in Mecca, the archives in the basement of the Recorder of Deeds, as well as in Cook County, in the Secretary of State's office, was able to see certain things on microfilm that I urge and encourage all Moorish American historians and those that love the prophet to travel up there to visit and see, because the eye-opening experience to see the things that took place while this man walked this earth are truly magnificent, as well as a story to tell and a way to protect yourself from harm's way by following the footsteps that he's led for all Moorish Americans, because he was the first Moorish American and he set something on course that is a theocratic form of government with a Rotarian complex. And when it's carried out to its fullest extent, well, the possibilities of man and the lessons that he gave us will teach you what the temple is supposed to become. So with that being said, me and some other Moors decided that you don't need 1 million people to change the movement and get it back on course. You just need a few people who understand law and who are able to spread a message that the prophet spread without being filtered. So in the halls of men, we've walked. Just yesterday, we had a meeting with some elected officials here in St. Louis in a boardroom with two Moors orchestrating it, myself and the Grand Sheikh Basir Bey, with our secretary recording, trying to realize how this Rotarian complexion unifies the uniting of Asia and America. Act 6 tells us we are to teach our people their nationality and their divine creed. So if most sheiks and chairmen and well-wishers and sympathizers understand what that means, once you teach a man his nationality, he's to build from there with the lessons inside the Moorish Science Temple of America. Those that's not getting taught the lessons are the ones that we are supposed to be reaching, because they are the Asiatics that the prophet speaks about inside the Quran, or the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by our prophet Noble Drew Ali, where it quotes and states that the keys to civilization is and always have been in the hands of the Asiatics and Moorish Americans in North America. So if one actually sees himself or herself in this movement, it's not about just wearing a fez, it's about doing the words, actions, and deeds that the prophet has instructed us to do as we start to evolve in a development growth that most men can't comprehend, because we're traveling in a spirit realm. And the young men and women today can only be taught by those that look like them, who carry, or should I say, have carried the burden to actually show them that there is a rainbow on the other side of the mountain. Because right now, the world we live in, they believe that they are still Negroes, blacks, and colors on paper, but in their hearts, minds, and spirit, they know something is wrong. They've been lied to. So in order to correct something that's been going on for over 400 years, we have to actually tell the truth to the children who will become adults, to stop the cycle of devastation, death, murder, and mayhem, hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, death, and everything that harms, because these are the young people that the temple was made for. Their particular spirits are the ones that the prophet spoke about when he stated it will be 50 years after I'm gone before you know what I brought you. And what he brought us, it can't be torn up and it can't be sold. So that's a little bit about where I'm at in thought and in mind and in body, as we supposed to demonstrate that mind is man. And as I'm a spirit of the everlasting and passing to the never-ending days to come, the brothers and sisters that are around me share the same DNA, the same molecular structure. The problem around this state, which is Missouri, and St. Louis being the city, is the last state that abolished slavery. So the Negro spirit is deep and rooted in this city. And so you can't say that you can't feel the pain and the frustration when you turn the TV on and you see our people, the ones running amok in the street, carrying guns, acting less than undesirables. But as Hillary Clinton said at once upon a time, she labeled our people as super predators. And so the world is actually seeing that America raises Negroes. To be dumbed down in America means that you are without a nationality and without a religion. And when our prophet gave us those things that made us full American citizens, or full American nationals, by way of the Moorish Divine National Movement, then those with some understanding were supposed to go out into the four corners, north, east, west, and south, and teach. However, they got stagnated. Some were able to go into a different direction. Instead of going straight, they went left. And in doing that, it caused a rift in the tidal wave of evolution in the Western Hemisphere. So the people who were supposed to actually be liberated over 40 years ago put themselves back into a noose by clinging to civil rights. And so our prophet knew this day was going to come the same way he predicted that taxation without no representation is going to lead to inflation. We are living in his prophecies. And the only people who do not know this are those that are labeled still Negroes, blacks, and colored. Now, don't get me wrong. We have fault in this as well, because there are a lot of Moorish Americans that converted to lodges and became Freemasons. And when that took place, a lot of these brothers, because they didn't want to go to jail, they didn't want to get caught up in any type of schemes and scams, they figured the safe place to lay their fares would be in a lodge. And so fear has kept them there, which is false education assumed real. Our prophet told us that we are not to be scared, because this organization is for upright, fearless, independent people. So when you take your place in the affairs of men, you have to be wearing gloves that's white, because everyone is paying attention to the Moorish Divine National Movement. So I suggest that all brothers and sisters utilize the time to reflect, as business is the reflection of man, because right now in this grand body, we have agent provocateurs that landed by the way of Keith Dandridge-Hill, Nuruddin Bey, Amir, and a few others. But these are the heads. And in this grand body, they basically have forged documentation, scared brothers off by the way of force with guns, took it upon themselves to make it seem as if they are the supreme rulers of the Moorish Divine National Movement, and put themselves in harm's way. And these brothers has formulated a plot against the true foundation of the Moorish Divine National Movement, brought to us by our prophet Noble Drew Ali, because they are Freemasons themselves who are pretending to be Moorish Americans. And in doing so, they've created confusion. They do not want to answer questions to the very grand body that sits on the council that they used to sit on. And I want to make it perfectly clear that if anybody out there listening that's in Moorish American World TV, if you're sending money, going on their websites, doing their chats, I want to let it be known that this is not the foundation of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You have to have a true understanding of law before you take the position or accept the appointment of position of any officer of the Moorish Science Temple of America. When D. Bailey Ill explained to me how Keith Dandridge-Hill got in the position as interim Supreme Grand Sheik of the original Grand Body, it was due to the fact he was ill. However, he never signed Keith Dandridge-Hill into the succession line to become Supreme Grand Sheik. What happened was his dementia took him to a position to where he could not fulfill his duties of fiduciary leader. So therefore, these brothers were able to manipulate certain documentation and paperwork and slide it on to Mecca and send it to the correct channels, demonstrate that they are who they say they are. However, these signatures are signed by the very individual who portrays to be the Supreme Grand Sheik. And this gentleman has committed embezzlement, fraud, acts of criminal circumstances by way of our young brother, Sparks Bay, who has written a sworn, or should I say, affidavit of affirmation, deposition, stating on the record what took place to him by way of K. Dandridge Hill and Nuruddin Bey, by way of force, by way of gun, by way of threat, diversion, and coercion, by way of armed criminal action, kidnapping, and forcible restraint. These actions were taken because the documentation they thought they were receiving was in the possession of this young Moor who sat beside D. Bailey Ill longer than any other Moor that's in our grand body. This young man actually became the one that executed signatory rights for D. Bailey Ill during his times of outbreaks of dementia. D. Bailey Ill had stated for the record that K. Dandridge Ill was under investigation for numerous charges stemming before he even got sick to the point where he could not oversee day-to-day occurrences and events and allegations of officers of the Moorish Society of America Home Office. So K. Dandridge Ill and Nuruddin Bey have by way of hijacked themselves to a position, and they've made it seem that they are the high-ranking officials in North America.
Brother, can I get you to pause right there? Don't forget your train of thought, but I wanted to ask you a question, if that's all right. Regarding
Islam.
Okay, so I have something up on the screen just from the website for this grand body. Just speaking of, pretty much sounding an alarm for people that don't send money to these people. Now, you were saying that they did that national leadership. I don't even feel right calling it a national leadership, but that administration, they didn't even want to hear out the grand body or even acknowledge them. When you go to that website, if you click on any of these locations that they have up here, it's a joke. There's nothing. There's no grand body. For the people who are looking, if you go to Chicago, there's nobody in Chicago, right? If you go to any of the other locations, they actually have the entire grand body removed. Like they'll have all the officers removed, and it's insane, really. But I just wanted to ask you, what are Moore's just what advice do you have for Moors who may be in that type of situation where you have some people who try to subvert what the prophet set up, where there is no grand body anymore. Everybody's just supposed to listen to certain peoples. They'll have all the temples are inactive, restricted, and everybody's been removed. Right?
My brother, I'm glad you said it, Islam, because the entire concept of the Moorish Society of America was designed and prepared to be under and governed by law. So when brothers and sisters go into Act 1, Islam, it says the Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Society of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Society of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Society of America. So when you break down Act 1, the people that are in Act 1 are all grand body members. Grand Sheikh, chairman, the Prophet, the grand body, and the assistant Grand Sheikh. So the Supreme Grand Sheikh is not in Act 1 because that's a different title, nor is the Supreme Grand Council in Act 1 because the grand body is who appoints the Supreme Grand Council. What people don't realize is that any member of the Moorish Science Temple of America can actually bring charges against any member that is violating the divine covenant of the Moorish Council of America. The prophet has laid down the law to where members control the Moorish divine movement, as well as officers and members control the temple. That is why love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is demonstrated by 5 different bodies of people in Act 1. Those that don't comprehend that will create things online and say, this is this, this is that, and that is this. I would encourage all Moorish Americans, whether in temples or out of temples, contact Mecca. Go and see how this thing was laid out with the true foundation, because home office was at the prophet's house. And he created the temple from above and then brought it to us below the heavens. Because in order to catch on, you must study law and you must demonstrate purity, because the lessons are only given the way the Creator instructs you to receive them as you read them. However, the sheiks that's out here today who are not holding true to the covenant, the prophet explained to us they will get their reward and it's going to be unjust. However, the ones that are demonstrating true and faithful, you are to study the laws, read your 101s, and wait for the message to come, because Allah will speak to you through man. Islam.
Islam. All right. And brother, like I was saying earlier, I didn't want to stop your train of thought. Just wanted to ask you that question. Please continue what you were saying. You still speaking about what you were studying and the information that you had received from brother Bailey L.
Islam. So the information that I received from Bailey L, Islam, was basically
Islam. I can hear you.
Okay, was basically the structure of how everything was laid out during the time when Emily took over for the prophet, and how the prophet had laid this out. And what he explained to me was that the documentation that I would receive would show that there were Moorish American communities under a juristic society back in 1928, already established when the prophet did his miraculous deeds. And this jural society that we were trying to recreate today, it lists exactly how we are to run this organization to where we can become a nation state, casting a free national ballot by conducting block votes with the temples. And when you understand what a block vote is, that means the temple puts someone in office or backs someone to be in office that has the temples and the Moors' best interest, the same way every other person who puts an individual in the office or an organization that backs an individual to go to office is to get a favorable reply for their people. So it's not hard to see that it already worked, because there's proof that it did work, but it's been hidden from those who has never seen the paperwork or the documentation. And so that is why I do believe that this is the time for younger brothers like yourself and younger sisters like your queen to take this thing by the rein, because a lot of people have went through a lot of hardships in life to get to where we're at. And this movement is not and will not be put to the side unless we stay active. And so D. Bailey Hill was focused on keeping active people, not passive people, in leadership. And so as I met Keith Dandridge Hill in 2021, the brother was kind of standoffish, He did not want to give me the documentation. He was more so paranoid of people coming around him when I met him, because he had been doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing that none of us were privy to at the time. And so investigation was launched due to some irregularities over some funding that we sent in many a times, and some documentation that we never received, which was our packages and our membership cards and our nationality cards and other documentation. And we had given a lot of money to these brothers at the home office, were pertaining to be the home office, but they really didn't even have an office. They were renting out a space, but no one is there. However, once these things started coming to light, they started trying to put so much of a veil on what was going on, especially dealing with the finance. Then he made the brothers grand sheiks and things, as we started to find out they were married to Europeans. And these were the people that were beside him. And so a lot of things started to become a lot questionary, because we're not actually in his own state to see the things that he's doing, but we're hearing things. And then we find that there's circulation of old footage of him on the internet dressed in Masonic garb, and conversations were had. The brother didn't want to answer questions, and he basically is not honoring the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, because he's never assigned himself an assistant grand sheik. The man says the grand sheik and the chairman of Act One are the same people. I clearly know that in the conversations that we had, that he is not well versed in Moorish science, and he is giving out the ADAPT paperwork. And some of these brothers and sisters who got the paperwork have never even realized how to get to first and second and third heaven inside the Quran, or climb Ezekiel's wheels, or even knew the Moorish American prayer by heart to recite it, or to even understand the correct way to open and close a meeting on Friday, or run a Sunday school on Sunday. So basically, we started seeing that a lot of times the brothers collected revenue, and it makes you wonder if he's actually putting it out there for finance and particular gain. But where is the money going, and what is he doing with the funds for the Moorish Divine National Movement? Because this is a transparency movement, and every member that's an official are privy to certain things inside the movement, running a temple and temple day-to-day business. Because the Rotarian complexion is exactly how the prophet describes the government that we run, because we are to find young men and women and create businesses and opportunities for Asiatics to come out of the storm and into the fold. But if you're not making yourself seen as a Moorish American, and definitely as a leader, and you're not putting yourself out there to where you're actually reachable by the people, then you can't call yourself a Moorish American, because the prophet already told us that a master never screens himself for the sake of fame or reputation. And Jesus went into the house where there were courtesans, thieves, robbers, and murderers. And he demonstrated from on the high and let the brothers know that this is equality to all when it comes to the gospel. So therefore, we have to be the beacons of light that put a measure and a message out there, because the frequency that the young men and women today of Asiatic descent are vibing off of is a negative frequency. And you have to counter that negative frequency with a positive vibe. And the prophet is the only way that the Negro problem can be solved, by way of the Moorish Divine National Movement through the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam?
Islam, brother. Now, just to go back to this in general, because it's not like it's just one group of Moors that have issues internally, and I guess you could say corruption. So just in general, you said that members of the Moorish Science Temple of America can bring charges, can bring about change. So what steps, like next steps of action, would you advise for the people out there that are listening, that are sincere, that see corruption, see stagnation, that want to move forward, and don't aren't that are running into issues with people that have these positions within the temple that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, like, when it's obvious that they don't follow the prophet?
Okay,
And
Islam, very good.
well, let me add one more thing to that. How can they hold them accountable, especially if no one else in leadership or no other temple heads are doing anything?
Islam, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a very good question. And I have an answer for you because it goes back to law. You see, the prophet did not create a 501c3. The 501c3 was created in 1969. When the prophet brought the old Canaanite temple, it was brought based off religion, which is First Amendment. So as he started to rotate and made it by way of Chicago, which is Mecca, and created the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which later became the Moorish Science Temple of America, one must understand what that threefold demonstrates. Well, it's the triune Allah, wisdom, will, and love. So if you are a Moorish American and there are temples in your city and you go to those temples, I wouldn't cause any confusion when I would ask the Grand Sheikh of that temple, pull him to the side and say, are you a 501c3 or are you the original grand body of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali? Based off the answers they give you, you should be able to understand what's your next move. Because if it is a 501c3, then it is actually operating as a Christian organization trying to demonstrate Islam, which is two different religious organizations and under two different religious laws. One is under Sharifa law, the other is under ecclesiasticals. So therefore, they cannot be mixed. That is the law of nations. The remedy to that, once you find out what they are doing and you are a true and faithful member, the only way that these brothers and sisters can open up these buildings that call themselves temples is by way of the Secretary of State's office. So you can actually file an injunction or a cease and desist to your local Secretary of State's office that they are giving out documentation that is causing confusion inside of your state. And it is no harm, no foul, because as a Moorish American, this falls under your vanguard status of the Prophet's temple. Islam.
All right, Islam, brother. And I didn't mean to cut you off while you were going, brother. Please continue. That's
Okay.
the question I have, brother Islam.
So the organizations that are actually calling themselves the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated, a lot of things can be said. However, this is not the way to do it because they are still somewhat trying to carry the torch in their own way. And a lot of their members don't know the difference between the movement and a 501c3. So that is one of the main objectives that this grand body is focused on addressing, because there is a federal unclassified file that goes back to C. Kirkman Bey, his handler, which is an FBI agent, every temple that opened up under his jurisdiction, and the documentation is legible Some of the things are redacted, but most of it, it's over 200 pages, will bring clarity to a lot of the questions about who is who and what is what. In this information age, which is the age of Aquarius, we move in cycle ages. And we measure things by time. So in this cycle age, a gate has already been opened, a milestone, as the prophet has already demonstrated. So as the age of Emmanuel, these brothers and sisters must understand this is the preparation age of soul. Not all men and women are going to make it to the chamber. We move in steps, we learn in stages, and we accept degrees. If you are one that is honorable, then you know your degree does not give you the authority to open up anything that the prophet has deemed to be for his people, for their redemption and salvation. He states that we are to give Christianity back to the European for their earthly salvation. So why would a sheik that calls himself a sheik try to mix the two? Well, you have to go back to the lessons. The prophet instructed us that beware, Moors, some of your own brothers going to put you back in slavery by wearing a fez if you do not know what the true foundation is, was, and always will be. And the only way that you can get there is finding someone like myself, Basir Bey, who knows about law, because no one in America is above the law. Policy and codes are not law. Law is the Constitution, and it derived its authority from the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 that stopped the Christians and the Moors from warring. However, some of these people have not did enough studying, but they're quick to put on the fez and call themselves an officer. I'm glad to see our brothers in the marvelous light of wearing the fez and knowing it's a national headdress for Moorish Americans. However, it's what's beneath the fez that causes the alarm, because a lot of these brothers are still acting under Negro business. And that's the truth. They mix politics with religion, and you can't do it. You have to separate them and understand how to master them. That's why we have 4 breaks in the circle. Political science, social science, economical science, and spiritual religious science are the things that make the clock go around. And when you take bits and pieces away from a clock, you cannot get the accurate time. And so therefore, when you ask me what to study, the prophet told us yourself. So if you find yourself following a 501c3 temple, then you need to go study more. Islam?
Islam, brother.
I would like to add that when the prophet put this divine national movement together, only the Moors can morph it into a nation state. Europeans, foreigners could not take control of our movement. And if we allow the thought of our prophet to be riddled down as the thought of a Masonic lodge, then therefore we're not getting anything accomplished. So a lot of these brothers and sisters are just going to have to do what the prophet said do, which is get in the back row. And I would also say, because I know the United States is listening. They're politicians. They're agent provocateurs. We demonstrate the law in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and we do not speak wrath or strife about any organization. However, those that are in power should listen and listen well. The jurisdiction of the Negro problem was and has been told to you many a times by those that came before me. It can only be solved by the Moorish Divine National Movement. The Negro problem is the Moorish problem. The resources in America that are backed up by the United Nations, which is our resources that accumulate more than any other nation inside the United Nations, which approximately 9,983 tons of gold and silver, can only be, and I repeat, can only be accessed by those who come through the vast estate of North America and who are descendants of our prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam.
So those resources that I'm speaking about are being held in trust because our people who fail and continue to fall to a low frequency will not raise their heads up and place the fez on the mantle. The crown is rolled to be used by people who actually know what direction the movement is to go. The resources should be placed into the hands who are grand body members of the original Moorish Science Temple of America, because you cannot duplicate it, you cannot replicate it, and you cannot diminish its capacity of the job that needs to be done to control these out of control Asiatics labeled unconscious Negro, blacks, and coloreds. This is not only a message to Moorish America, this is a message to all America. Because if we are living in a time to where you are scared to approach the man with darker hue, all because there are some who call themselves Negroes, and you place all of us in a category as them, then the worst is yet to come. That is why we are calling on the leaders to do their due diligence, make the necessary calls, do the plan of action, meet with the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, original grand body, 1928, that exist in Mecca today, and reach over and accept the olive branch from the Moors. You have an uncontrollable spirit in front of you, which is bays out of control. The reason why these young men and women are born by signs is because their spirit carries different functions, and they operate on points of efficiency when they're taught properly. But without proper toolage of knowledge of self, they are like superheroes gone wrong. Children are not stupid, nor are they dumb. They possess the ability to understand, to reason, to will, and to solve problems. But if you do not give them the solution of the problem that's going on in their brain, then the worst days have not been seen in America. I have sit and talked and walked with a bunch of young men and women from the ages of 30 down, 18 and under, and 40 and up. Some of the most dangerous young children today are at the ages of 14 and under. They are explosive with guns. They do not care about life. And they look like you and I. So a Caucasian or any foreigner cannot step to them and give them any inclination of understanding about how to solve their problems, because they already know it must come from the mothers and fathers, the grannies and grandpas, the elders of the nation, because it takes a village to raise a child. And we have a bunch of children who are fatherless, motherless, so to speak, because their mothers are hooked on drugs or hooked on uh, the Real Housewives of hip hop or some other dumb Negro show that they rock to the frequency of. They're making children at a high alarm rate that the children are still babies, putting out 2 and 3 babies before they're even 21. Baby fathers getting killed at a high alarming rate. Mothers going straight to DFS, being forced to be a Negro, black, and colored because they don't know what the L of the Bay or the power of the temple. And they definitely don't know the power of the woman because she is the matriarch. And without her rising to an astounding feature of life, liberty, and understanding of how precious her thoughts are, then all of her children are doomed. And we're going to be forced to live in a world where children have more power in the household than their own mothers and fathers, because the mothers and fathers are scared to discipline their own children. This is a crisis. Any man and woman who has family members inside the Department of Corrections or the Bureau of Prisons, then they understand what I'm saying, because most of the young men and women in there now are from the ages of teenagers to 25 with elbows, which stands for life sentences. In the last 15 years, more men and women under 25 that went to the Department of Corrections and the Bureau of Prisons than any other time in the history of the United States being called the United States. Prisons are being built because of ignorance. America is falling because of ignorance. You hear politicians speaking about making America great again. However, America has never been great, because in order to say something is great, that means it has to benefit all the people that encompass the land for it to be great. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice was brought to us by a man that was great, who was an angel of Allah. However, there are many people inside these United States who want to dissolve this man's teachings. The MST of A, Moorish Science Temple of America, is not just a civic or religious organization. It is a regency, a consulate's office, a place of refuge. It is the only place in America that holds the highest charter of the land. The land mandate itself states El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali. The conference in Cuba in 1928 was a conference for nationals. That's why the United States Secretary of State, Mr. Hughes, was not invited, because he was not a national. It was not for corporate America. It was dealing with the national and international responsibilities of Moors abroad. Citizenship papers today can actually explain who we are, the diversity of citizenship, the dual jurisdiction that we have with Morocco in Eastern Africa, as this is Morocco or Al Malak, far west in Western Africa. But these truths must come out, because the children, the women are so far gone that The society today is trying to wipe out what a heterosexual male even is. The prophet covers all of this in the laws. And I do quote in Acts 7, he says, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet Noble Drew Ali through the guidance of his Father God Allah. In that act alone, it states that there is to be no homosexuality in the Moorish Science Temple of America, nor no homosexuality in the Moorish Divine National Movement. It states that there must be a husband and a wife, which is male and female. It states that sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious in all uplifting acts of humanity. So right there, Act 7 in the additional laws and Act 7 in our original Constitution and bylaws states that we are to define what civilization is. I quote, we are, no one else, we Moorish Americans are to define what civilization is by ushering in the thought that the possibility of man can achieve more than the Son of Man. This test is not without a cost. Our prophet, and the truth must be told, our prophet gave his life for this movement. When you go to Mecca and travel and read the documentation of the people that put their names inside of the movement with him, they did not have an L or a Bay on it. And so when he said forced to make changes, he knew that his time was coming near because these agent provocateurs look like us. They sound like us. However, the vibrations they put out lets you know that that's not your brother, man. You see, a holy covenant of the Asiatic nation, chapter 25, states that ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with the brothers, and that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you with love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. So right there, that sums it up. Where we as a people, a nation state with a flag, a constitution, a religion, a nationality, we miss an economic base for our nation. The leaders of the Moorish Science Temple of America are supposed to hash out the negotiations with the corporate states, the United States government, United Nations, and your local governments. And this is not me just saying it. This is coming from the local assistance and tribal consistency fund given to certain states throughout these United States under the Biden administration for the indigenous communities under the American Rescue Plan And all it is being based off showing you what states have stepped up and started calling the so-called Negro, Black, and Colored indigenous people and awarding fundings to these communities. And it's basically under the Economic Development Administration, which put $3 billion into indigenous peoples all across these good United States. So the leaders that I met with yesterday, as well as the official staff here on this location, we're trying to come up with some solutions on what we're going to do and how we're going to ask for the funding, because it's a broad step for Moorish Americans, and it is a giant leap for the Asiatic communities to be a part of it. So in closing, what I would say is, when brothers and sisters read the laws that the prophet has put out there, you're going to see above the Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws, you're going to see 3 symbols. One is going to be the star and crescent, one is going to be the all-seeing eye, and the other one is going to see 2 hands shaking. So Moorish World TV, this is an ADAB lesson. For those brothers who pretend to be sheiks, this is a valuable lesson. When you see those signs, it should say unity, salvation, Allah. Because unity is the highest pillar of Islam. Salvation is what we're striving for through unity, and it can only come by way of Allah. And if you understand what I'm saying, unity, salvation, Allah, those are the 3 letters that make up USA. So when you look at Moorish America, and I hear these brothers speak about, oh, I ain't no citizen, I ain't no national, I'm this, I'm that, then I would ask them brothers to go get with some sheiks, to get with some people that study Moorish science and break that measure down, because see, Moorish America is really all of the Americas. North, South, Central, and the adjoining islands. So we share something very common. That's a history that goes back more than 50,000 years ago. Because the flag represents and encompasses a movement that has never stopped. But the problem is, our people have stopped to think. So our prophet said, if he could get you to think, you could save yourself. And I give honors to these brothers and sisters who created this Moorish World TV, because to think means you exercising the 5. And in order to exercise the 5, you need to fill it with something other than zoom zooms and wham whams and Negro shows. So the divine instructions our prophet left us with was his voice. And even though we don't hear his voice from electronics, we hear it from telepathy. And that's what brothers and sisters have got to start doing. You have to meditate. You have to contemplate. You have to rotate those thoughts with your brothers and sisters and then demonstrate them into the ether so that they can manifest into the Moorish paradigm in your location. When the prophet said he brought us everything it takes to save a nation, take it and save yourself. Well, if each one of us Moorish Americans start saving ourselves, then we can help save others, because we don't have to worry. But a lot of Moorish Americans worry every day because they don't know how to grab a hold of the true and divine teachings. And so that is why we have filed a lawsuit from St. Louis to Chicago, which is Mecca. And Moors in America are doing a great job, but Moorish World TV by Taharka Bey, I made a mistake when I spoke, so I want to retract that. And I want to wish the brother his well wishes on whatever he's doing, but I didn't want to put that out there to where it's a shot at him or something, because this is not meant for that. But yeah, Moors in America and Moors in America TV are doing a great job. The situation at hand is not going to solve itself, but the lawsuit that we put inside of Mecca breaks down a lot of key barriers to where Keith Dandridge Eel and Nuruddin Bey and the treasurer and the historian will have to answer questions from somebody, because it's not going to go under the rug and it's not going to go bye-bye overnight. These are serious charges that's been brought against them, and they're not accusations, because when the charges were brought to them, they were trying to make it seem like they were just foolish things, but they are really actual crimes under the European statutes and codes of federal laws, as well as crimes under the Moorish Science Temple of America Constitution and bylaws. So this is not going to be tolerated. The MST of A, Moorish Science Temple of America, has lawful men and women that understand law and equity. We understand statutes, and we understand the American Constitution. Constitutional form of government is what the prophet set us as. So any officer in any situation or station has to actually uphold the station of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because it is a nation state with its own jurisdiction of Sharia law. And with that, I would like to leave you brothers the same way I came, in peace. Islam?
Islam, brother, and gratitude for taking the time to come on here and speak with us, share that. And I think, like one of the main things that we can take from this more is to hold ourselves accountable, and then also to hold the leadership accountable, with whatever group you're in. Specifically speaking about the temples, you can't really hold the leadership accountable if you don't understand how the temple's supposed to run, understand our law, and also are doing what you're supposed to do, right? Holding yourself accountable, being the best version that you can be of a Moorish American Muslim, and then the leadership will reflect that, and we can move across the board, because we're not here just trying to state problems. So I appreciate you, brother, and gratitude for coming on. Moors, everybody here that's enjoyed this broadcast, make sure that you hit the like and share button. Help to spread this information out there. And just once again, want to just tip my best to you, brother. And also, in closing, did you have anything that you wanted to say, or anything that you wanted to share, any information?
Yes, Islam. There is a package that you brothers and sisters need to read. It is called the, actually, you can pull it up. It's called the American Rescue Plan for Indigenous Communities. And on the first page, it lists the states that received 51 awarded funding for indigenous communities. And I have a friend that was actually in DC at a meeting at the White House, and she stated on the record yesterday that the White House refers to the so-called black man as indigenous communities. So if some of you brothers and sisters get a chance, go on the U.S. Economic Development Administration's website, which is EDA, pull up the indigenous communities package, and then pull up the American Rescue Plan fact sheet. It will go into detail explaining what is required and how our funds have been given to the slave states waiting for us to actually accept them. But the criteria, and I quote, the criteria to accept it means, and this is what disqualifies 501c3s. It says, over the last year, the Economic Development Administration also implemented a new rule change to expand the definition of tribal entities eligible to receive EDA grants to include for-profit tribal corporations, so long as they are wholly owned by and established exclusively for the benefit of the tribe or its members and organizations. It cannot be affiliated with any lobbying or any 501c3s. So in the map, it shows you that Mecca, nor Missouri, nor Texas, nor a lot of places has even gotten the funding, but the funding sits in the slave hands treasurer's office waiting for those indigenous leaders to come and apply for it. So now that you're starting to see that we have a lot going for us, problem is we just never had the correct leadership nationally to get the ball moving. Tribal people are doing exactly what we are trying to do right now. That's why they listed this on their website, because it's not just to help indigenous people. It is to help every class of people in America. And if those states are not giving you your money and your funding, then you are to go to them directly. So we have tapped into a very serious situation to where it actually told us $15.3 million per organization is what the average has been awarded. Then it tells you another 4.1 million per organization is added just to create businesses. And then another 5.6 million for technical assistance for the pandemic recovery. And then another 8.9 million to upgrade homes, temples, places of business for that community. So we have to actually demonstrate what the Rotarian complexion is of the movement, because that's where the prophet illustrates that we are to become businessmen and become industrious in Act 1 of the additional laws. Islam?
Islam, brother, and gratitude for speaking on that and then sharing something practical. You know, 'cause, unfortunately, there's some people who are kind of out there, you know, with the I guess you could say remedy and things that they're searching for. But thank you for sharing something that's practical that makes sense. Um, just want to say Islam to you, brother, and I'll put the link for what this brother was just speaking on with the rescue plan on the EDA site for indigenous communities. That will be in the video description. Make sure you go and check that out. And I just want to say gratitude to you, brother. Appreciate you.
Islam, gratitude. Brother's doing a good job. I'm glad you are able to get the word out there, because, you know, we are truly in need of finance.
Islam. Definitely agree with you on that. And more is on that note, though. We're going to go ahead and close this out. I want you all to like and share this video. Make sure you check out some of the videos from the other Moorish American owned businesses, and also the artists that were playing earlier. Make sure you go out and check out their platforms and subscribe. Peace and love, Moors.
Peace, Mo.
All right, peace.
CareMore is a non-profit organization focused on providing goods and services to families and individuals in our underfunded communities in Central Ohio. We have created an online presence to reach members of our Central Ohio communities, as well as local events and meetings to give away supplies and donations throughout the city all year long. Visit our website to learn more and to send a donation.
Every day, billions of searches are conducted online, therefore it is critical that your company stands out to the small percentage of clients who are essential to your business. Our team of local digital marketing consultants and SEO experts is eager to help your company achieve its goals through a consultative approach, top Google rankings, and collaboration with industry experts. Here at Adept Marketing Solutions, we stand for integrity, dedication, ingenuity, and results. We know how to navigate the ever-changing digital landscape and what brands must do to succeed. Visit our website to see what we can do to help you reach your goals. Highest quality handmade fezzes. Crafted fez with the finest wool, complete with tassel and leather sweatband. Wear the national headdress of Moorish Americans with pride and respect. 3XL size fez is a comfortable fit for brothers with dreadlocks. Shipping worldwide. Go to moorishfez.com to order.
Don't let your history start at slavery. Join with Moorish Science Temple, a lawfully chartered Islamic organization, and proclaim your nationality while helping us uplift fallen humanity. Founded by American prophet Noble Drew Ali and consistently promoted plans for the betterment of humankind. We are located in Columbus, Ohio. Visit our website www.moorishamericans.com and follow us on social media. We hold live meetings on Zoom every Friday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Give us a call at 614-407-4394 if you would like to join or send donations to help us uplift fallen humanity.
Fez Caps blends Moorish style with modern streetwear hats. The cutting-edge design features Moorish symbols with a silk tassel on the dome of the cap. More than just a fashion statement, Fez Caps represents something powerful and ancient within you. Go to fezcaps.com to order your Fez Cap now.